Hi everyone, I'm Sam. I'm from the Playbooks team at RevPartners, and I'm here to discuss something which is, I believe, is like one of the complex projects inside like the revenue operations, like migrating from one CRM platform to another platform. Or let's not specifically say like a CRM platform, or let's maybe take like an example of like a marketing operation platform to like another CRM platform or like a marketing operation platform. So I will be like specifically talking in more detail about like the Marketo HubSpot migration, which I kind of like an experienced, and like why it's like difficult, and how to structure your approach when you're like migrating it so that you are like set up for success and you can like smoothly like navigate these migrations. So when I started, like I said, like migrations are like one of the difficult projects in the RevOps. And why do I say that? Like at least there are like a couple of reasons for it, and depending on the platforms, those can be like, there can be like multiple reasons. So for the first and foremost reason is like when we are like migrating from one platform to another platform, so we are not talking about like just like a data migration. They're talking about the process migrations, which include all your process which you have been like developing over the years, optimizing that, and then transferring that process into another platform. So the problem here is you have done so many things in the platform, you've been like doing it, you've been like optimizing it so many years. Now all these things shift to like another platforms, which kind of migrate to another platform, and these platform doesn't map like one-on-one to each other. These are like kind of like in different, very different platforms. And the second thing is like, if you are like kind of like in approaching migration, so you expect like one of these platforms to be like sunset, and then the second platform kind of like in start from the very first day when this like kind of like in sunset. So those are like some of the things which like makes like migrations very difficult. Now let's talk about like a specific example which I will be like talking more details for like in Marketo HubSpot migration. So Marketo, again, very good platforms. In these days it was like a prime. It was like one of those competition where it doesn't have any like in competition in the market like 10 years ago if you're like talking about. But now let's talk about the challenges. So the first and the foremost is it's not like a CRM platform where like marketing team can like have a holistic view of all those like in marketing data, sales data, like in reporting and all those things. And then second thing is if you're like talking about, let's suppose say like a drag and drop functionality of all those like in campaign features, or let's suppose say like in campaign related assets, it's not as user friendly. You need like a dedicated team for that. So there has been like a shift in that, and that like many teams are like preferring HubSpot over that, and that is the same reason, the pain point. So if you're like planning for this like particular migration, so here are some things which you can keep in mind. So basically consider this as like more in pre-discovery phase. So pre-discovery phase is okay. So you're like talking about all these things inside your company. So let's like consider some of these factors, and then based on consideration of these factors, like plan that, and then like maybe okay, how should we like approach this migration? So let's first see like some of those pre-discovery phases factors. Okay, so we talked like Marketo. It was in the prime time. It's like predominantly like a marketing operation. It doesn't have a CRM capabilities. So now, like if someone asks me, is there like other tools which can like help with the migration? So for example, one of the tools that is like the import tool. So it like kind of like it helps with you. But the problem here is like a lot of data inside Marketo is like non-importable. So let's talk about like reports, workflows, landing pages, marketing emails. You cannot like import that, like no tools like supports that. So if you want to like approach that, you need like a manual process, like building that manually inside HubSpot. So that is like one other factor which you need to like take in consideration. And then as I talk about like why complex is marketing operations, so it's built on like those marketing operations process. So it encompasses of like various things like campaign operations, inbound marketing, GDA, PR operations programs, and these have been like built and optimized. And now from day one you have to start like using that inside HubSpot. So that like creates like another challenge. So okay, so there are like so many challenges. How to approach that? I mean, it's not impossible. Like I have done it, like many others have done it. So how to approach that? So in order to like approach that, there is something which we called as, again, as a company, you are kind of like in discussing this. So let's like align on like an end state. That's like a first and fundamental step. So what you are doing, what you're trying to do, okay, you need like a migration, but there are like other factors which needs to be taken in consideration with the migration. So let's talk about business goals. So you have Marketo, okay, and then your Marketo is integrated with SFDC. So what you need to do, like your Marketo is integrated with Salesforce. So if you like try to migrate it, what like in some business goals will be affected is if you like decouple like Marketo with the Salesforce, you need to integrate HubSpot and Salesforce. So it's not about like only migration, it's about transferring from one platform to another platform. Then your sales team kind of relies on you to like transfer like a lead routing and like a lead scoring, which you kind of have been like doing that inside like Marketo. So now you need to shift that to the HubSpot. That is something which you need to like take in consideration. The third thing is like Marketo assets migration. So you kind of learn whole your like, campaign operations inside like Marketo, and you to shift that inside HubSpot. So those are like 3 of the business goals, like in sample business goals, or like maybe like you can like structure in that way. So start with that. That's like a massive and helpful, and like that will help you like with brainstorming and like, tunneling down your vision on what you are trying to do. The second thing is treat your like in migration project as like your GTM strategy. So you're doing like a milestones. So we define that as like a milestone confirmations. So inside like a milestone confirmation, we have a specific things, and then we kind of like club that as like a milestones. Okay, so this particular month we will like reach out this milestone. This particular month we will reach out this milestones. So that is like clear. So we are making this progress, and our progress is going in the right directions, and this is how we want to approach it. So there are multiple steps to do that. You can just do like a phased approach, but yes, milestones approach do suggest it because it's a big project. You might want to like break down into those milestones. The next thing is like something which we called as, okay, so this is not a one-man's job. This involves like multiple team stakeholders and like multiple people. So you want to make sure if you're like collaborating as a team, start using like RACI metrics. It's like very kind of like an useful like a project management tool which kind of can help like team aligns and have a shared responsibility. So what's a RACI? So RACI stands for responsible, accounted, consultant, informed, and like it kinds of breakdowns into your team's responsibility. So let's suppose if I'm like saying about, okay, so at RevPartners we have this kind of like a team structure where we say, so we work as like a strategist, which is kind of like a responsible all for like client communications, client project management, optimizing like in client HubSpot and so on. And then we have a supporting technologist who is like more like an HubSpot developer and like helps like with all those like in HubSpot technical configurations. So that is what I mean is if I as a team is like I'm approaching it, we have a technologist, strategist. So if I'm like kind of like an approaching like in alignment steps, so I'm responsible for that, and then I need to like hold my technologist accountable. And then if I'm like approaching this with a partner, like they don't have any roles in that. So that is something we can have shared responsibility. So no one is like pointing fingers, or no one is just like dumping this responsibility on those. So you own it. If your team member owns it, let them know they own it and they need to complete it. Now, the major project, that is something which I studied in start, is like a change management process. So platform migration doesn't come with only like a data migration, it's a process migration. So how do you make sure you kind of like have a change management process thing? So this is what I do. I kind of like brainstorm, okay, so this is something which we are doing. These are like my actions, what's happening. This is like happening within my like in connected platforms. Now things will change because there's like a difference in data models. There's like a different like platforms works differently. This is how I need to map out, how I need to like filter out, how I need to like clear out my brain and decide the next steps. So this is like more like a pre-discovery phase. Let's like meet in the discovery phase where we discuss like what more specific relevant questions to ask to like approach this migration. Spider.